Hey, everybody, and welcome to Learning from Smart People. I am your host, Rob Oliver, and my guest today is Katelyn Hamilton. She comes from the corporate marketing and public relations world, where she worked for multiple agencies for 6 years prior to pursuing the entrepreneurship route to create more freedom and flexibility in her life. Now, Katelyn works as an online business manager where she helps entrepreneurs organize, strategize, and prioritize the back end of their business to go from overwhelmed to out in front. Katelyn, welcome to the show.
Thanks so much for having me. I can't wait to chat today.
Absolutely. So tell me a little bit about your background then. What was going on with you when you were kind of in that corporate world, working for agencies, doing that work? What happened there? And then kind of what was the moment where you said, I don't want to do this anymore. I'm ready to go out and do my own thing?
Yeah, so I have a story that'll probably resonate with many people. I worked in corporate America, climbing the corporate ladder, post college, got the job at the PR agency and worked my way up there, and then transitioned to, a couple other roles and a couple other jobs. Worked for a hospitality PR firm, working with celebrity chefs and hospitality in the hospitality industry as a whole, as well as then becoming a project manager, as well as like an account manager for a digital agency where I worked on a luxury car company was our brand, our client. And while I loved all the work I did and the experience I got, I learned sort of the corporate politics that I wasn't exposed to, or really didn't know a lot about in college. Before you get your degree and move into the corporate world, you just think it'll be sunshine and rainbows. And there's a lot of that sort of political stuff behind the scenes that you don't know and you don't realize. And so it was actually becoming extremely frustrating to me as I was trying to advance in my career, as I was trying to work with my clients and my team. And I just felt really held back. I'm super type A, overachiever, goal getter, and I felt like I couldn't grow and expand at the rate that I wanted to. And I had all these big ideas and these things, but I was always just held back a little bit by whatever was going on in that corporate political world, putting in your time and this, that, and the other. And it actually got to a point where my boss and I didn't necessarily see eye to eye. And funny enough, I was mysteriously let go a couple weeks later without any sort of indication as to why, other than being told it was budget cuts. So, wow. I have my own personal ideas as to why, but that was really a big blow to me. I never thought that would happen to me. And I was really good at my job and loved my job. So I just didn't really know where to go from there. I took some time to think about what I wanted to do. Part of me was held back with the fear of, you have to go back and get another corporate job. Like you have to have stable income. You have to, have that security. You have to have health insurance. And it was hard, but because every job I was looking for didn't have the flexibility and freedom that I actually did have in that last role. I mean, I took ownership of a lot of my own projects. I truly transformed the efficiencies in the system behind $1 million brand portfolio at that job. And I was given a ton of autonomy. So every other job role that I had interviewed for or found online, it just wasn't the same. Not to mention the pay was like significantly less than what I was used to. So right. During those 6 months, I started freelancing. I worked my connections, built, my network, and reached out to them to find some freelancing roles in the PR and marketing space. And that opened my eyes to a whole new world. So I did end up taking a new corporate job in the agency world. And my plan was to work that job for about a year and then leave and build up my freelance business and leave. But as you know, I'm sure things don't always go according to plan. And I launched my website and about 6 weeks into that new job, and my boss pulled me into her office told me I had to take my site down or I could no longer work there. And I talked to my then boyfriend, now husband, and he was like, no, you've been freelancing for far too long. You've built this industry, like this great network and these great clients, quit. And so it was undoubtedly the hardest decision to make, because I was now choosing to walk away from the stability instead of being let go.
Right.
But I did, and I left. And that was the fire that lit me up inside to pursue building my business. And so I did. You start with where you know. And so I started running a full service marketing and PR agency. I took on clients in the corporate space. And the abridged version is about 6 months in, as I joined all these entrepreneurship groups online, I saw the need for the operations, systems, strategy side of things with all these creative entrepreneurs in that entrepreneurship space. I was like, I have all of these skills that people need from an organizational standpoint. So I pivoted my business and I opened a second business running as an online business manager. So that's how that was born, was essentially moving from the corporate world, building my business, in that marketing side of things, and then seeing the need in the entrepreneurship space and adapting my skill set to really take ownership of that OBM role.
Okay. So what I'm hearing you say is kind of at the beginning, the choice to get out of the corporate world was made for you. And then you have the experience outside of that and you're like, okay, I enjoy this and I'm willing to go back into corporate only kind of as a short-term thing to just, for lack of a better term, to pay the bills and to be somewhat stable. And then now all of a sudden, 6 weeks in, you're faced with a choice. And the choice is, are you going to be your own boss or are you going to have a boss? And you said, you know what, I'm going to do my own thing. And, all right.
Yeah.
So then there are two words that I think you mentioned that really talk about what you're doing as an online business manager. You mentioned systems and strategies. Tell me about those and how you develop those and what that means in the context of what you're doing for entrepreneurs.
Yeah. So a lot of my clients are creative individuals. They have all the big ideas. They have, how they want to help people, how they want to change the world, what programs they want to offer, what, coaching, programs or one-on-one offerings they want to do, all these things, but they haven't really thought about the how-tos. So they haven't thought about everything that goes into that. So oftentimes, that's setting up the email marketing on the back end, the social media posts, the graphic designers, having somebody do graphics to promote that, the engagement, building your audience. There's so many things that go into a launch or a business. And along with those elements, there's your traditional operation side of things, which include sending contracts and invoices, and getting like an onboarding process set up for how you're going to onboard or enroll those new clients that you have coming into your business, what platforms you're going to use to basically run those programs, as well as the team members that you need to hire to support your business and everything that goes along with it. So those moving pieces are oftentimes what people don't like doing, especially if you're a creative entrepreneur. You want to, you start a business because you want to do the things that you love. And oftentimes it's not the operational side of things and managing and organizing and creating efficiencies to help your business run the easiest, most fluid way possible. So what I do is I step in and I help them rein in sort of those creative elements into almost like an organized to-do list and create a strategy that is going to work for them, whether it's for a launch or for their business as a whole. So sometimes, and oftentimes I should say, when I come into a business, there's some operational things that need to be fixed with what they're currently doing before we can kind of look ahead to what's to come. So when I start working with clients, we start with a strategy call, and that includes a brain dump. So they share with me, here's all the ideas, here's all the things I have coming up, here's where I am struggling, and here's where I need support. And then I understand their long and short-term goals. And then we prioritize what needs to happen. So if they say, hey, I have all these clients, but I have no idea how many calls left they have with me. I have no idea, like they all get this email, but it's all sent manually. We basically clean up their current processes to be more efficient so that they're spending less time managing and working in the back end of their business and creating some sort of automation so that it can be done automatically, or it's stuff that say I take on, or maybe they have a virtual assistant or an assistant of some kind that can also take on some of that support, so that again, they're really focused in like what I like to call their zone of genius and what they do best.
I love that idea, the zone of genius, because unless you're an accountant, you don't start your own business in order to run billing and to do paperwork and all of that. So you're really setting things up that way. What I also am hearing you say is it starts with that conversation that says, what do you have going on and where do you want to be? And then developing the strategy that says, okay, this is how we get there. And then I guess the system comes from that. This is how we're going, how we're getting there. And now these are the steps that you take. And I was talking to somebody the other day about the movie What About Bob? Don't know if you've ever seen it, but it's right. It's about baby steps, and you're taking baby steps out of the office, baby steps on the other. And that must be extremely helpful in the idea, the journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step. And am I properly understanding kind of what you're doing?
Yeah, some of it definitely comes down to setting up like SOPs, like standard operating procedures. And it can be stuff that we rinse and repeat for multiple scenarios. So if you're due, for example, a launch, I'll go back to a launch, you can kind of take that template, take that standard procedure and repeat it. Again, that could be for onboarding. And so I kind of level that out with them too, like what do you want that to look like, and then we find those efficiencies, and then comes in like what platform is best to manage that. So for example, I love the tool Asana. It's a project management software tool virtually. You can think of it as like a virtual to-do list. You can organize your Asana by projects, so specific, if you have a launch or if you just have operations, or if you're working on, say, a podcast or a book or whatever it may be, you can organize different projects for that and have different to-dos. You could lay it out by like a timeline, so when you need stuff to be done. The great thing about Asana is if you have a team, you can add people to your Asana boards and assign them out specific tasks with specific due dates. So it's amazing for team management. So I kind of look at it as like one large to-do list that then helps keep you organized for who's doing what, when they're doing it, when it's due, and it gives you that full picture view. So you can work on things for the long haul, but then again, you're tracking and staying organized with what needs to get done. So that's a task, like that's a tool, I should say, that I use in pretty much all of my clients' businesses. But then you're also looking at, again, other systems such as Dubsado, which is a tool that I love to use for onboarding and client management. So if you have a client that, or actually as a perfect example, you can have a lead form on your website. If someone's interested in what you're offering, they can fill out that form. It can send them an automated email. You can set up a time to get on a call with them. If they decide to enroll, it gives them the invoice and contract to enroll, and then sends them a welcome email welcoming them to your offering. So that's, for example, like an onboard lead to onboarding process flow. So there's systems like that. So there's a ton of tools. So essentially the first thing that we do is figure out the process and what needs to happen. And then we layer in the tools that can help assist with that from an automation standpoint or an efficiency standpoint.
It's so interesting. As I'm listening to you, I think of it kind of like a business often is called an organization.
Mm-hmm.
But if you have no organization, you have no business. That's where you're coming in, is to provide the organization for the organization.
Yeah, it's so true. I never even thought about that, but yeah, exactly. I give organization to an organization.
Okay. So how many, like when people are coming to you, how many of them are you finding that have like, this is all of the stuff that we're doing and I have all of these ideas, are you telling people, okay, are you helping them prioritize the idea to say, okay, is this the one, what's the one you want to pursue today? And what's the one that you want to pursue tomorrow? And what's the one that you want to pursue years down the road? Is that kind of a little bit of what's going on?
Yeah, I think part of it, so it's twofold there. So I definitely provide your support from like a timeline perspective. And oftentimes I give people a dose of reality because they'll be like, hey, I want to launch this program next week. And I'm like, whoa, that's not going to happen. Here's what we need to do to make that happen smoothly, most effectively for you, so you're not being really reactive. So sometimes I get the creatives that want to do it all right now, and I have to kind of bring them back to a reality standpoint of everything that goes into making that happen. That helps them prioritize, I should say, in terms of their timeline of events. My main role as an OBM is not to provide them that sort of consulting in terms of like coaching. So most of my clients have a business coach that they work with, that then they outline their strategic plan for the year. And I come in and provide support to that plan. So they usually have a rough idea. I work with many multiple six-figure and seven-figure business owners. So most of those people have an idea of their plan, and then I come in and give them that sort of overview of organization and execution of stuff that needs to happen. So do we sometimes push launch dates or push dates to align better to an actual efficient and effective strategy to support that? Yes, but from the most part, they have the idea of what they want to accomplish and when. It's just prioritizing the to-dos to get there. And occasionally it's them switching and pushing out some of those goals because we need to get the foundational elements of their business established and set up first. So that's for, like, I would say my ongoing monthly OBM services is definitely traditionally people that have those plans and those visions established. I do offer systems intensives. It's called Systems with Speed, and that's a 4-hour intensive to establish the back end of someone's business. So those are oftentimes newer business owners, and we go in and we have a strategy session where we talk through, hey, here's how your business is running. Here's where we could set up some of those systems and support to help your business run more efficiently. And that is where I do provide them like recommendations and advice on like, hey, this is what you need to prioritize first, because once you get this set up in your business, it will allow you to do X, Y, and Z. So that is geared more towards people that just want somebody to set up those systems for them, tell them how to do it, and give them that strategic sort of presence and systems for their business for them to continue to push onward with all of their other big thoughts and dreams. They're not ready for ongoing support, but they still need some strategic support as well as systems set up in their business to be able to take on more things that they want to do.
Okay, since I already referenced one 80s movie, I'm going to reference another one. And I don't know if you ever saw My Cousin Vinny, but he's a lawyer. He ends up somewhere down in the deep South, and he gets his car stuck in the mud, and he's trying to move the car. The wheels are spinning. There's a lot of energy in the engine. There's a lot of motion in the wheels, but because there's no traction, there's no movement. And so I'm thinking a little bit about what you're doing is so many entrepreneurs, they're busy. They're doing they're putting out all kinds of energy. They are exhausted at the end of the day, but they aren't getting the traction to make their business move forward. Is that
Absolutely
gelling with what you're talking about?
Yeah, that's so true. I mean, I'm basically giving them the traction, the ability to get these things in place to continue to move forward. So I'm 100% that they have the energy and the effort there. They just need some support in the behind the scenes thing to allow them to be more efficient with their time and propel them forward.
Got it. So what are some of the things that you put out there as being the most important parts of getting that forward momentum?
Organization is huge. I think aligning on your goals and being really specific about what you want to achieve, and then getting organized about how you're going to do that is really key. And then honestly, taking action and being consistent. Consistency is key. So whenever I'm working with a client and we're introducing a new strategy, we talk a lot about consistency, because you can't just implement a strategy and assume it will work the first time. You have to, there's so much, this is where I think my background in marketing also comes into play, because there's so much that you need to get done to warm up your audience to what you're doing as well, that some of that momentum comes from just being consistent in what you're doing and what you're sharing. So we talk a lot about that too when we're looking at not just setting up systems, but also the marketing side of things, because I support that side of people's businesses too, is what are you doing consistently that's going to breed awareness and understanding in your business, that's going to drive your sales or drive your profits. Because what I see a lot of times with people is that they're launching and they're putting so many offers into the world, but you're confusing your audience. So if you're doing something consistently and building your brand, building your name, building up your program or offering that you're sharing about, people will start to get to know you. That momentum will build, which will lead to additional sales. So consistency to me, and being organized about it, but really being consistent, is like the number one thing to gain momentum and traction in your business.
In thinking about this, are you doing any kind of evaluation with folks to see, like, what are the things that you bring to your business that are irreplaceable, and what are the things that are your deficits or weaknesses, or are the things that you need to farm out, so to speak?
We do actually talk a lot about that. And it usually honestly starts from what do you love doing most in your business? And they can usually tell me that right off the bat. And so anything else to me is something that can be outsourced. And that is where, you kind of, you take a risk, right? Because in business, you either have a surplus of time or a surplus of money. And if you have a surplus of time, you can be spending more time doing those things, even if you don't love them. But once you max out that time, you are obviously, hopefully, generating more money in your business. You have to take that risk. So you have to outsource some of those things that you don't want to do, or you don't like doing, you're not efficient at doing. And I never recommend people just outsource it all at once. I really like people to prioritize what makes the most strategic sense from them in terms of, like, again, a time standpoint. So if you are, the best example I can give is, the easiest one is, if you love to write your own content and you let, like, your people are attracted to usually your energy and what you're sharing and your words and your wisdom, but you cannot do graphic design to save your life and your images are, not great, outsource the graphic design part of it. Or maybe you really just love coaching and sharing and being present and being virtual and working with people face to face, whether it's Zoom or in person or whatever. Maybe you have somebody that supports you with copywriting and design and things like that. So to me, I come into it and the first question I ask is, what do you love doing most in your business? And we identify the tasks that align with that. And then everything else down the line gets outsourced and it's prioritized based on that time or money sort of like equation, in figuring out how we can strategically do that to get them to really ultimately be just doing what they love to do in their business.
Excellent. Because what they love to do is the essence of what their business is all about, is kind of what
and
makes
why
sense
they
to me.
started the business in the first place,
It makes absolute sense. So in that way, what you're doing is basically helping people to get out of their own way.
100%. And that's definitely one of the top things that you'll see entrepreneurs do in business, is they get in their own way and they get in their own head, and they're usually typically holding themselves back more times than not. I mean, I'm guilty of it too. We all are, we're human. But I absolutely kind of help people see those blind spots in a way and be like, okay, this is what you're good at. Like, let's focus on that. How can you do more of that? And how can we have other support? Because what you'll find is that when you hire the right support and you hire the people to do the things that you don't want to do or you're not good at doing, it actually brings in additional money and revenue for your business, because things are getting done faster and they're getting done better than you could do them because somebody else is more skilled in that area.
That makes perfect sense. Listen, Katelyn, thank you so much for being on and for sharing. If people are interested in getting a hold of you, where can they find you?
Yeah, they can find me. I'm on Instagram a ton. That is where I love to spend a lot of my time. I share a ton of free value and content through Instagram stories and just on my feed. So they can find me at Katelyn, Katelyn, Hamilton, Hamilton. And I'm also online on my website, same thing, KatelynEHamilton.com. And those are probably the best places to find me.
Wonderful. I will put those in the show notes so that people can also find you. And listen, you were generous enough to offer a special offer for my listeners. Tell me about that.
Yeah. So speaking of systems, I've created a self-run course called Automate Everything. And this course is focused on Dubsado. Dubsado, like I mentioned earlier, is an amazing platform that allows you to really take your onboarding experience and your client management experience to a whole nother level, but it's not the most intuitive. So what I've done is I've created a course that will help you set up your Dubsado platform in just an hour and a half's time, gives you all that you need to know step by step, what you need to do, what's the most important. So you're not getting lost in 101 training videos and setting things up in a way that's inefficient for you. So that course can be found on my website. It's called Automate Everything. And if you use the code SMART, SMART, you will get 50% off that course.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for that. Listen, now we have come to my favorite part of the show. It is time. We have established that you are smart. We have established that I have learned from you. It's time for 3 questions to establish your humanity. You ready for this, Katelyn?
I'm ready.
How many pancakes have you ever eaten in a single sitting?
Gosh. Probably, well, it depends on the size, 4 or 5. I am totally a chocolate chip pancake girl, but more so a cinnamon French toast girl. So pancake wise, probably like 4 or 5. And as a quick side note, they make funfetti pancakes, which I just made for my stepson last weekend, and they taste like you're eating cake for breakfast. They're amazing.
Okay, I'm gonna, on a side note with this, see, my wife, because there's 5 of us in the family and everybody likes their pancakes differently. So my daughter likes plain pancakes and some of them like chocolate chip pancakes. And so she just makes the batter and then she sprinkles the chocolate chips on them. But the problem is that when you flip the pancake over, the chocolate chips kind of get a little bit burned. You've got to mix them into the batter so that they're in the middle but I digress.
We have the same issue at our house because my husband does not like chocolate chip pancakes, but my stepson and I do. So we also have to sprinkle them on top.
Got it. So do you have a special place that you like to visit either on a regular basis or somewhere that when you get a chance, it's your go-to favorite place?
Oh gosh. Yes. So growing up, we went to Kiawah Island, South Carolina. It's just a beach right outside, about an hour outside of Charleston. So that has always been our family vacation spot. So we go there still, try to every year. But if I had to give you guys the best place I've ever been on the face of this earth, it is the South Island of New Zealand. Hands down, my favorite trip.
Awesome. Okay, last question, and I'm changing my last question up from what is on my sheet. It is, you've got some dogs. What are your dogs' names and what kind of dogs are they?
Yes. Okay. So we're crazy. We're crazy dog people. We have 3 dogs. We have a mutt who is, he's a mix of a little bit of everything, but he's about 70 pounds of fluff. And his name is Cashew. We call him Cash. And then and he's this happy-go-lucky dog. And then we have Luna, who is a Great Pyrenees Australian Shepherd mix. And she is about 2.5 years old. And we rescued her last year. She actually, that's a whole nother story for another day, but she actually found us about 2 weeks after our lab died. She walked into our lives, and
Wow.
she's just been the best addition. But she is a total protector. She runs the whole backyard of the house, and she is super loyal, super sweet, the sweetest dog. And then we just got a puppy around Christmas, and he is a 10-month-old black lab, and his name is Dax, and he is trouble with a capital T. He is sassy and very demanding, and honestly has the personality of like a toddler. He is just wild, but he's super sweet, and we love them, and they all get along really well, but our house is loud, very loud.
Awesome. Hey, Katelyn, thank you very much for sharing about yourself. Thanks for being on the show today. All of my listeners, I will say, first of all, I appreciate you listening. Second, please subscribe to the show. Make sure that you send us an email. Let us know that you're following. Let us know what you've learned. And I will remind you all, as always, that when you stop learning, you stop living. Have a great day, everybody.